at Bitcoin, you guys can see we had, like I mentioned, just relentless downtrend in here. We just wicked barely past that previous low. We ended up closing our first daily candle yesterday back above the 200 week. Now, of course, 65K is going to be one of our more liquid areas of interest that matters a lot more on this chart. And here you guys look at these double tops right around 74, 75K. That's also going to be an area of interest we're going to be watching for there. That's going to matter a lot in an area that probably is going to get tested here sometime soon. Of course, that break over 65 is what's going to open up that more meaningful test towards this previous band that was resistance, support, failed support, and we'd be testing that again here. So that's kind of like the next short-term anticipation and schematic that we should be watching for. Now, a single bullish candle is not enough, right? It doesn't really tell us everything, but when we flip over to our Heiken Ashis, what we can see as far as the behavior in this most recent sell-off here is you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bearish candles with no upper wicking on those daily candles. So those show that there's very clean and clear downtrend that's still intact. We should anticipate more of those candles to come until you see something different. So even until, let's say, what was this on Saturday's candle, that's still printed bearish with no upper wicking. It wasn't until Sunday's candle, yesterday's, you actually closed a doji. So that started to show that there was at least weakness in the downtrend, not a confirmed uptrend reversal, but started to show that there was weakness within the downtrend. And then today, you guys can see we still have 3 whole hours until this candle closes here. And it's not the biggest candle we've ever seen, but you do see a green bullish candle with no lower wicking. And it's a little bit of a different indicator because you can see dojis like this, and that's not really a perfect indication. This is really a sign of initial seller trend exhaustion in this capacity here. So, would like to see a few more of these develop in here and see some more daily candles close like this with the Heiken Ashis, but that's a good initial sign. When we pair this with RSI, we take a look to see if we've seen a nice little reversal in RSI. We've seen a nice pushback in RSI. You've come back from the lows in here, but you still haven't even pierced back above 30, which is our lower band of like our oversold reading. So trying to reclaim the 200 week, still below 65K. RSI still oversold, but a little bit of a retest there. Seeing the Heiken Ashis print a little bit of a story as far as a short-term shift in volume being a little bit more bullish. So I think that we're going to see a little bit more of this week. The goal would be for us to reclaim 65K sooner than later. I don't want us to really build a lot down here below this level and then break, because that looks a little weaker and it doesn't give me as much confidence. So those are the areas I'm watching for on Bitcoin. Taking a look here at ETH also got a nice little relief candle, its first relief candle. When you look at the Heiken Ashi, similar story here yesterday, indecision doji, and that was after 4 or 5 days of pretty consistent downtrend in there. Have a little tiny bit of lower wicking. You guys can barely see it here on ETH, but we're seeing similar trend changes there. We fell just a little bit shy of 1375, which is that wick that we had over here from March of 25. So I'm really hoping to see something a little bit more productive here and a nice breakover like this $1,900 level to show that we're ready to reclaim something that's a little bit more liquid, because even with Bitcoin, Ethereum, we had areas that fell so horribly short of even just their classic pivot zone retest zones with no proper rebalancing up in there. So I feel like this is just the kind of that ending, at least short-term capitulative phase that is still owes us a little bit more upside action here to show us next move. Taking a look here at Solana, came down to 60. We're within $10 of that limit there. I guess I'm only rooting for a little bit more downside for like a few assets, but can't have it all, right? So this ended up being some sort of flag in here, compression. That is something that unfortunately created an additional downtrend, and I didn't have as much confluence or things to offer you guys because of the imbalance at the lower there, and you did take out this previous low. So I don't know, maybe we're within $8 or $9 of the bottom here. Maybe it's already in, but you guys know where my heart's at with Solana. XRP came down to $1.05, very close to that 90-cent mark in here. The high here technically, let me get that precisely here for July. Was it 71 there? Let's see here. I'm not grabbing the actual candle, am I? The high of the session was 92 cents there on the actual high. So very close to filling it out. I would say XRP's, almost completely 100% fully rebalanced. You guys know that was the minimum viable. We're very close to being rebalanced in a like macro higher low structure. So I'm okay with it here. I'm okay with it a little bit lower. Same thing with Solana. XLM did do a nice little test here above that 200 week, right into the zone we discussed there for XLM. Nice back test, rejected the 50 week and the 100 day, but we're seeing a little bit of momentum there. One of the leaders because it was a late bloomer as far as this range break situation. Taking a look here at HBAR, didn't wick down, believe it or not, to that February low here. So that still remains open while Bitcoin has not shown a clean move back over 65K. Now, with Zcash here, I gave you guys all the goods, right? no regrets taking some reductions. I'm happy with the reductions in positions. This is still left open to the upside as imbalance to be like 530 at the maximum, and then here at like 485, 500. We're getting close to where that area of interest is, where you had, so support over here, resistance, and then this was support, and then you melted down. I did say this looked very distributive up in here, right? I said at least $400 is what I need to see. So really at the very, very minimum, you guys expecting to move towards 380, 400 should have been 100% from a technical perspective, something you were watching for. Now, where did we wick down into? We ended up wicking down into kind of like the pivot zone where this key support level was previously. You closed that daily candle there pretty nicely and retracted a lot of those initial losses, and were able to settle in above that 350, which was our kind of like last little area of interest in here. Right, this whole area in here ended up closing some pretty good daily candles, seeing some nice breaks there, pushing up into the 50-day. So just be cautious because these wicks are very volatile here. If Zcash were to come back for 250, it is what it is. It may just do that, especially if dominance upticks and Bitcoin takes another stab back at 60K. All right, like I hope you guys can see that, like, how long it's been doing well and how long it's been trading a minor support level should not tell you guys that imbalance that you see doesn't matter anymore. So if we look at also the Fibonacci in here, you guys can see that 786 was really sharp selling. So never close a daily candle under the 236. We're challenging the 50%. The 618 right around 527 aligns there as well. So you guys have to make a decision that's good for you. I still hold 10% of my Zcash. So I'm happy to let that much risk ride. But, with the velocity we've seen there, I just don't want to see you guys get hurt and give up really, really good gains that are potentially on the table here. So make decisions that future you will like, make decisions that will keep you married and your kids talking to you. I can't make those decisions for you guys.